Keisha. She was, I think she was 22. Um, it was scary because when I met Keisha, we was hanging out a lot, going to church a lot, um, and we were getting ready for her big day. She was getting married, yay! And I was her maid of honor, so I helped her with everything on her wedding day. Um, she got married, and then she got sick after the wedding, and then she didn't understand why she was getting sick. And then so we went to the doctor, and I seen her walking down the road, and she found out that she was HIV positive. She had no idea that she had it, so she instantly got sick, and it was very traumatic for her and I. It affected her to where she lost her mind. Basically, she literally lost it. Like, she didn't want to live anymore. She stopped eating. Um, when she found out she had AIDS, she went to her husband and she was like, you know, how could you do this to me? She asked him a lot of questions, like why you didn't tell me. You knew you had it. She told him, you knew you had it the whole time, but you never told me. He told her that he had pneumonia, which was a lie. Um, so she cried a lot. I spent a lot of days with her, and she would ask me to sing to her all the time, and that's what I did. I sung to her, I prayed with her, and I went to see her. She was in the hospital a lot, but it attacked her body so quickly because she didn't understand it, and she just didn't want to live anymore. It was terrible. It's hard for me now, and it's been over 17 years and it's still touchy. You know, I talk to her daughter from time to time on Facebook, and she looks just like her mother. And it's a touchy feeling because, like I said, we grew up into church, and when we were in the hospital, she said to me, it was a spirit, and she was scared. She was like, Christine, begin to pray. And I was like, okay. And I started praying and pleading the blood of Jesus. And it was like a spirit. And this lady, it was a lady though, she walked past the room of the hospital, and she walked past, but you can see the spirit on this lady, and she walked past so slowly, and I just began to pray, and she went on about her business. But my friend was in the bed, and she didn't know what to do. She was like, Christine, everybody that touches me, I just feel like they're demons. And I was like, it's not demons, Mom. But I had to constantly pray with her. So it was hard to see that. Uh, I don't know. I would be happy if she was here. You know, we'll play together and act silly like we always did, and sing and go to church. And I don't know. We will always have get-togethers. I would be grateful that she was here because we were good friends. I do. My brother, his name is Joshua. I don't fear for their lives, um, but I know I just feel one day that they're going to be gone, so I try not to think about it, but I do at the same time. But we just enjoy each other's times, and um, I see that they take their medications, and but just to look at him, you couldn't tell that he has it, and he's just a loving person, and he's just full of life. So I mean, you know, I really don't worry about it, but at the same time I do, but not as much.
Before my stepfather came into the picture, me and my mother were close. Um, we'd hang out. We had we had like things where we did certain things every week or every day of the week. Or if I did good somewhere, I got rewarded for it. I felt like I could talk to her about anything. After he came into the picture, I started seeing less of my mother and more of him. Um, it almost, I don't know, it felt weird. Um, she and I were so close, and then we just kind of, there were sometimes I felt like I was being pushed to the side for a relationship. Almost as if she couldn't juggle me and him on the same plane, on the same level. I'm not gonna say playing field, but on the same level. Um, I was punished for just about everything that I did wrong. Um, if I didn't wash the dishes, I was told I need to wash dishes for another week. If I did something as small as lying, yes, I call this as small as lying because let's be honest, every kid lies about something. Um, I would be disciplined, butt whooping, and then I would be grounded. And these groundings weren't like a week or something. These groundings lasted for a while. Almost, it became regular hearing, you're grounded until I forget about it. And by that time, it'd be months, or about a month or two. Um, when I used to wet the bed, I was made to wear a cloth diaper and stand in the corner because I wet the bed. My reasons for wetting the bed was because at the time, the Egyptian god Anubis scared me. And there were some times I thought I saw him in my room because I had a lot of stuff about ancient Egypt and I wanted to study. I studied Egypt's history. So I guess I got some nightmares from the Egyptian gods because they all looked, to me, they looked weird. They were humanoid bodies with animal heads. So that was enough to give me nightmares. And there were moments where I'd wake up and I have to pee, but I'm so afraid of leaving my bed that I'd end up wetting the bed, or I'd wake up with the bed wet. And my parents treated it as something as if it was bad. I mean, they made me feel like it was like a lot of the things that kids do, I I had no business doing because I'm so smart. Smart people do dumb things sometimes. Um, when I was younger, there were periods where I was locked in the bathroom. Now, if you were to ask my mother and my stepfather, they're both going to tell you, no, that's not the case. It never happened. They'll deny it until the day they die. In their eyes, they didn't do anything bad. But yeah, there were times I was locked in the bathroom naked. I don't even remember why I was locked in the bathroom. I just remember that there were periods where I was just kept in the bathroom. And I'd be crying and screaming, wishing someone would help me, and it never came. And then after I was let out the bathroom, I was made to write stuff 100 times, and if I cut corners, like if I started playing with something when my parents are in the room, I was made to add. I was more words were added, so I end up writing "I will not do something" 200 times, or until my hands hurt. When when my parents had friends over the house, I was told that I can't say anything. Um, there were even things that happened where I'd go places with my stepdad and I'd have to sit in the back seat. Like it was a privilege to sit in the passenger seat, basically. There were so many things that were considered privileges by them that they took away. It was almost it's almost like it was almost like living under a government, and at any moment you step outside of what the dictator wants, you they take away your rights. I was a kid. I was 7, 8, maybe 9, and I'm having to hear my parents tell people oh, he did something bad, don't talk to him, he's on punishment. Or when drama started happening between my grandmother and my mother, I was told not to talk to them and to yell stranger if any of them tried to talk to me, to treat them like they were strangers. The people who I grew up around, the family I was born into, I was told that they're bad for me and they want to take me away from them. And that was because my grandmother had called CPS a few times. But yeah, that was kind of nerve-wracking, and that's something I would never put another kid through. How? Okay, I remember I was 10 when I went to go spend some time with my dad. That spending time ended up turning into me staying there because I expressed I wanted to stay there. My father knew there was something off about me. Um, Teachers told him, and he listened. And well, I think he ended up talking to my grandma Maya, about it, and she went to go. Basically, my mother found out through the grapevine that they were planning on keeping me, well, yeah, having me stay with them because I wanted to stay with them. What my mother did was she threatened to bring the courts into it and legally have me taken from him and back into her custody. It honestly, anytime someone said that something was different or off about me, my mother would disagree and say my son is nothing's wrong with my son. He's just different. When really she should have investigated and she should have had me talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or both, um, because my teachers were saying it, my grandmother was saying it, my grandma Maya was saying it, my father was saying it, and every single time someone tried to move forward with that and try to really find out what's going on with me, my mother blocked it. Teachers wanted to put me on Ritalin because my attention is short, very short, even now. And my mother just, she said no. I probably needed that medication, or I probably needed some type of medication, or therapy, if anything. But I didn't really have any therapy until I was 17, and that was 1 or 2 sessions. Um, I was about to turn 18, so I was still 17. I had graduated high school, um, and I wanted to get as far as away from home as possible. So a school in Atlanta somehow got in contact with me. I guess they found my number or email address or something, and that was all she wrote. I ended up going to Atlanta to get as far away from them as I could, and I was 17. Um, I did a I did a variety of things when I was living on my own. I hopped from job to job. Um, when I wasn't working, I thankfully had two other roommates who one had a job. He had actually a really good job, and he was actually no, he wasn't footing the bill. He was footing his part of the bill, but my grandmother was the one who would pay my half of the rent. I don't know if my mother knew this or not, but I would call my grandmother and say, "Hey, I'm working, but I'm not getting enough hours, and rent's coming up, and I need I, I need rent money. Would you mind um, sending me a check or sending me some money so I could pay off my rent?" And that's how I was able to survive in Atlanta. After I dropped out of college because it just wasn't what I thought it would be, I ended up moving to Seattle to be with my grandmother. And then about a few months later, Hurricane Katrina hit, and I decided to go back to Florida. Well, go to Florida. That's where my parents were living at the moment. And that was that was something. I really, it was something where I didn't really want to be there, and I discovered, well, I was reminded of why I had initially left stay, when I came back. My brothers and sisters were older, but things were still happening the way they were with me in the house. Only difference was my stepdad would do stuff where if he was irritated with something that one of my siblings do, he would flat out ignore them. Like treat them like they're in another plane of existence. Not they're not even on Earth. That's how he treated them. He'd walk right past them, not say a word to them. And it was so petty to me because why is an adult, a grown ass man, why is he ignoring a child? Well, because she did something that you didn't like for that moment. It's not that serious. That's a child. Ignoring a child does huge amount of psychological damage on a child. And they honestly, he had them thinking that he didn't love them when he ignored them. And I didn't like that. I didn't like having to be around that stuff and having to hold my tongue when there's things that are obviously wrong and everyone's just acting like everything's okay. So once again, by about 18, maybe 19, I moved out and I went to Job Corps. I couldn't deal. It was it it was annoying my thought process and everything. I started walking around angry. My relationship with my siblings isn't all that great. Now it isn't. I would say we're not talking. Um, Me and my sister have blocked each other on social media. Um, I have no clue how my younger brothers and sisters are doing. Um, I have one brother who lives not too about an hour or two away from me, and he we haven't seen each other in since 2008. Um, I used to visit him, but I stopped after I realized I was the one who was more enthused about coming to see him than he was to me. After all the times I've asked him to come, or for my birthday or something, I just gave up. Um, I used to be really close with all my siblings, but it's not like that anymore. And on my end, I've stopped trying because I've I'm not going to say I've done enough, but I've done a lot just to try to make sure that we have an open line of communication. And it's almost as if they're not really interested in anything that's going on with me. I really don't know what my brothers and sisters are going through right now. I don't have a relationship with my parents. I haven't spoken to my stepfather since maybe 2012, I think. Um, and before that, I didn't. We didn't have any communication beforehand. My mother, I don't talk to her because me and she and I just don't. We don't see eye to eye on anything. And my mother is just a woman who is full of anger and hate, and she doesn't know what to do with it. Uh, my biological father, he and I will talk every now and again. I kind of wish he'd called me more often instead of me having to call him or text him. I kind of wish he sent me a message saying just to see how I'm doing or I love you. Um, Sometimes I've actually forgotten that me and my father are on speaking terms because there was a point where in time where we weren't because at that time I wasn't really interested. I can't say that's my fault or his fault as to why we don't talk now. Um, Oftentimes I've told myself uh, he has a family of his own. He has kids and whatnot, and he's probably so caught up with them and work that he forgets to talk to them. Um, in my opinion, I shouldn't be having to reach out constantly. I shouldn't be having to ask members of my family, how are you doing? I shouldn't be having to do that. I only have two members of my family who will hit me up every now and again and actually genuinely ask me how am I doing and what's going on. Only two out of the large family that I do have. I honestly don't know if all of them know what's what my conditions are. Just about everyone in my family knows that I'm HIV positive, but as far as me being autistic, none of them know. Come to think of it, yeah, none of them know. How I'm living now is with Josh and his family. Um, he and his family have been taking care of me, and they've been there for me more than my biological family has. They've made me feel more like I belong than my biological family has. It's a weird connection. It's almost as if I've known them my entire life, even though I haven't. And I haven't received that type of love and care from people like that. Oftentimes, I would just be misunderstood and talked about behind my back, and when I show up, smile on my face. My family is fake, for lack of better words. They're very superficial. And Josh's family is very deep and grounded. And even though they might say that, some of them might be like, I'm not deep, I'm not that deep, and they actually very are. And they're very, very lovely. They're so genuine. I really don't know where I'd be without them.
I've always liked guys, but saying that I was gay was something just that I didn't do. Um, in fact, I guess you could say I was in denial. Um, I was dating this guy, and we were enjoying each other's company, but we had both believed that we were going to one day, marry a woman and have a family, because that's what we were taught. Um, we were together. We spent n- numerous weekends together. I was young, I was a teenager, sneaking around. But when we first started, when we first started messing around, every time we did, I would become violently angry. Like, I'd be so mad. I'd be throwing stuff around and ready to break windows and ready to kick shit. Like, I was so mad at myself for allowing, I guess I was so mad at myself for allowing myself to give into my temptations. But I mean, I loved him, or at least I thought I did. I mean, I was young. I guess I didn't know what love was or what it was to be gay. But I mean, we kept going on. I mean, we told each other we loved each other. We talked on the phone every fucking night. I hid in closets talking on the phone to him. I fell asleep in bathrooms talking on the phone to him. Because I guess I was getting comfortable at some point. with, well, this is what my life was going to be. We started talking like, well, I was saying I was gonna open my community centers. He was saying he was gonna be, a famous basketball player, and he was gonna come to my community centers, to talk to the youth and shit like that. But something happened, and one weekend we were spending, one weekend we had spent it with each other. He just flat out was like, after having sex, was like, I don't want to do this no more. And I was like, could you have like not had sex with me? Like, I felt like that was disrespectful as hell to do some shit like that. Um, but anyway, I cried. I was like, bro, I was like, whatever. He was like, I mean, we can remain friends. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But it was under the unsaid stipulations that we could not speak about what had happened. So all the years we had spent together had to become a non-factor. So I was like, bro, I don't even want to be your friend no more. So, long story short, I obtained my GED. I get accepted into Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. And I'm excited. I'm like, I'm going to college. The first one in my family at that time to go to college. Boom. I'm still kind of heartbroken talking to the people, in my church because they're, trying to tell me that, um, oh, being gay is a sin. And, you need to just ask God for deliverance because it ain't nothing but God, I mean, it ain't nothing but the devil, tempting you, lying to you, blah, 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 blah. This one girl even told me that, I mean, you can have feelings for, wanting to have sex with a guy, but the sin doesn't come in until you actually do the act. I was like, okay, whatever. So listening to them, I got it in my head that, okay, well, God, you going to deliver me. You going to set me free. So there was a girl going to my church. Me and her had became really cool friends. Like, she was my buddy. We mimed together. At the time, I was a mime minister in the church. Praise God. Hallelujah. That's when we raised the roof in church. I don't know if y'all remember that, but we did. Um, and like, I figured that, because I cared for her, I was like, maybe I'll grow to be in love with her. And in time, we'll grow closer. So me and her began to talk about marriage. And I asked her to marry me, and she was like, yeah. So we started doing everything you were supposed to do to get married. I was looking for a little place for us to stay. Our little first home. It was going to be a little efficiency apartment for two people. We was going to live in it, do our thing, work on us. And then we had got the rings. She got her dress. We were getting the invitations, the wedding party, everything, and everyone was so happy. I was doing everything that everybody thought I should be doing. I was working full time. At the time, I was only 19 years old, making good money for a 19-year-old dude at Walmart. I was going to school full time. Everybody was good. It was all love, but I wasn't happy. I just wasn't because I just had these thoughts and I just knew. I was like, Lord, oh, it's like, Lord, why? Why am I having these thoughts? I'm with this girl. I'm with her now. Why can't I just feel for her? Well, I called off the wedding. I told her I was gay. And in my mind, I had just came to the realization that I wasn't going to change because I was killing myself trying to change already. I was literally going insane. Literally. After I called off the engagement, I apologized to her. She was hurt. One day, my mama came to me. Well, they came. I was asleep on the couch. We had a full house, and me being me, I was always willing to give up my room to sleep on the couch. I didn't care. I was sleep on the couch. My brother and my sister came downstairs. Come upstairs, come upstairs. Mommy upstairs crying. I was like, my mama crying? Why my mama crying? So I went upstairs and my mom was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that if anything I did that happened to you in Cincinnati, I guess she thought like, well, what the church teaches and shit like that. Because we used to be like heavily in that type of church, but we've kind of evolved a little bit. I guess that being that she thought it was her fault that I was gay and I was going through a lot of that stuff, and I had to tell her. I got down on my knees with her and I was like, Mommy, I was like, it is not your fault. I was like, you did nothing wrong. I said, I am a good boy. I'm a good child. I said, I am loving. I am caring. I am compassionate. And I am alive. And I hugged her and I was like, look, get up. Get up, Mommy. And she did. I told her not to worry about it. I was like, I'm okay. But I mean, I wasn't because I wasn't quite sure who I was. I mean, I still wasn't happy because this was like, I mean, I said I was gay, but I don't know what it is to be gay because no one has taught me what it is to be gay. I mean, in school they teach you about sex, but when I was in school and they told me about sex, it was between a man and a woman, and when you were married. I mean, so I ain't know nothing. I ain't know nothing from nothing, and all the porn couldn't teach you. And the first relationship I had didn't know much of nothing because we didn't know shit. So, but I guess the first time I found some form of salvation was when I went to my first sanctuary. I went to I went to the Mix in Charlotte. It used to be on South Tryon back in 2003 ish, 2004, 2005. This is somewhere around that, maybe 2004. And I remember going to the club for the first time. I remember being terrified because I had never been to the club. I had recently came out the closet. I'm scared. I'm about to go to hell. This is all the shit that's going through my mind. But I go in the club and all these beautiful people up in there. The club manager was at the door and she was like, "You're pretty. I ain't never seen your face around here before. I like you." And I was like, "Yay!" But yeah, so we go down. We go. It was upstairs and people are upstairs playing pool and sitting down on the little steps and there's art on the wall and shit. And I was like, "This is quaint. This is cute." And we went downstairs and people were dancing. I was like, this bitch is crowded. I was scared. I had never been to a club. In fact, I had never really been to a dance. No, I had never been to a dance. When I was in school, I didn't go to dances, and because I dropped out of school, went back, and then was kicked out, I didn't have a chance to go to prom. So I had never even been to a dance. So this was my first time actually ever experiencing a social dance gathering. So it's pretty wild. Music was loud. Boom, 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 boom. Niggas is grinding against niggas. Bitches is grinding against bitches. Motherfuckers half naked. Niggas is sexy. Bitches is sexy. God, they're free. I was kind of scared because I was like, is this right? But then I had to look at it and I was like, they're not doing anything. They're just dancing. They're just dancing and having fun. Something they don't get to do Monday through Friday or Sunday through Sunday when we all have to pretend. It was my first sanctuary. The club. It was safety. And it was $5 before 11. And I went every weekend just to get away from my life. Just to get away. Not even a year after I broke off my engagement um with the girl, my then friend, I had gotten into a relationship with, I guess it was my first real relationship, you could say. Um, we were together for a few months, and um, within those few months, I had tested positive. Now, I had only had sex with 3 people at that time. Now, I have done other sexual things like oral sex, blah, 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 blah. You know, they're still arguing about if you can get it from oral sex. Maybe I got it through oral sex. Who knows? But I had only had sexual intercourse with 3 guys at that time and 1 female. So, and the guy that I was with at that time, we took him to go get tested, and he was negative, so I didn't get it from him. And this was April. This was April 2005, and I had just turned 21, so I wasn't even able to drink it. Well, legally, to say. Um, and a lot of people, well, there were some people, not a lot, there were some people who tried to make me believe that God was punishing me for leaving the church. There were people who told me to my face that God gave me HIV and he was punishing me because I left the church. And there was a point in my life where I did believe that. I did. It did take me some time to come out of that. I mean, years, not no short thing. It was very long. Years upon years of convincing myself that they weren't telling the truth. It's been 11 years since then. In that time, I've gone through health changes. I've gone through several different medications. I've gone through a lot of mental health changes, a lot of mental health medications. I've gone through a lot of relationships, friendships. I've gone through a lot of ups and downs. I've gone through a lot of moments where I've fallen in love with somebody and got to a point where, oh my God, I gotta tell them. It used to get to a point where I talk to somebody and it'd be cool, you know. I'm a smooth individual, so when I'm talking to you on the phone, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm a poet. I'm a spit. I'ma just talk, and it's gonna be cool. But then I'm gonna get to this point where I'm gonna be like, okay, this nigga's falling. This nigga's getting feelings. Let me tell him. So I'll just like completely shut off, and they'll be like, what's wrong with you? And I'll be like, I gotta tell you something, and whatever you do with what I tell you is up to you. And I'll be like, I'm positive, and I've been positive since I was 21, blah, blah, blah. This one dude was like, oh my God, you were supposed to be my husband. And stop talking to me. Crazy thing is, he's currently HIV positive. He and I never had sex. So he didn't get it from me. Let you know that. Um, been through a lot of friendships. Um, Still, there are a lot of people who are like, you're being punished and you need to seek God for deliverance and healing. And once you set away from your sin, blah, 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 God is going to heal you. I try not to think about things like that or listen to those people because I've been surviving on my own for a lot of years, making sure that my health stays the way that it needs to, my CD4 stays high, and my viral load stays undetectable. Yes, it takes more than medicine to do that, believe it or not. But it's been 11 years since then. And the girl that I was going to marry, she's currently married. She's my friend. Um, the guy that I was dating when I was younger, he and I are not longer friends. The guy that I was dating when I tested positive, he and I are still friends. And a lot of the guys, well, actually, a lot of the guys that I've dated since then are still friends with me. And going through relationships with me and being with somebody who's positive or newly positive, they've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot. So let's make it 11 more years. My lowest weight was around the time I tested positive, somewhere near there. I was still a teenager, well, 19, 20, 21. I weighed around 230. Um, my weight has fluctuated up and down a lot over the past few years. I'm at my heaviest weight of all time now, which is 350 pounds. And my biggest fear with my weight is that I'll have a heart attack before the age of 40. So hopefully working out to help me. Because Lord knows I don't want to have a heart attack. And that's a fear of mine. After I tested positive, I decided to, well, I remember telling myself, well, if I'm going to die, I might as well live until I die. So the first thing I did was I enrolled into the community college in Charlotte, North Carolina, Central Piedmont Community College. Um, and um, I went through my first year, and after my first year, I started taking my meds. And I was taking, at the time, the drug Sativa. I don't know if you know anything about the drug Sativa, but that mug was a bitch. Hallucinations, overheating, trouble concentrating. But I made it through my first year. Um, Ended up getting a part of musicals, musical theater, which is pretty fucking awesome because I actually started acting when I was a young teenager. So my first semi-pro musical was pretty cool. Um, that was awesome. Um, I thought it was a good idea that I stayed active because at I was in a deep depression, and I thought it was time to do something to try to come out of it. A lot of the side effects associated with the medicine when I first started taking them um, stomach aches, frequent diarrhea, loss of appetite. Ended up losing a lot of weight. Um, excessive sweating at night. Um, and one thing that I did, well, I had a friend, well, one of my best friends at the time. He was like, you should try smoking marijuana. Marijuana is, it's been used as a as a medicine for years. So I tried it, and it actually, kind of curbed a lot of the pains that I was feeling when it came to the medicine. So I would say I started smoking marijuana back in 2006. Um, that was about a year after I tested positive. And a few months after I started taking the HIV medicine, they worked well together. Going to school was pretty fun. Um, I was doing the musicals. I was going to school. I actually ended up being on the dean's list the 2 years that I was there. Um, I was inducted into the International Honor Society, and the night that I was inducted, I got to meet Monique, the comedian. Her niece was also being inducted the night that I was being inducted in Phi Theta Kappa in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I got to meet her that night. And Phi Theta Kappa is an honor society for those people who maintain a 3.5 GPA or higher. So I was very proud of myself because despite, being, dealing with medicine and dealing with the sicknesses that go with going to a public school and people not washing their hands and stuff, I still maintained a high GPA, actually a 3.95. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty fucking cool, actually. After attending the community college for a few years, I decided that I wanted to transfer, and I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It wasn't a big scholarship, but it was a scholarship, that, had me pay in-state tuition. So that was pretty freaking cool. Um, so I was going there. I was in the honors program there. But while I was there, I learned that that theater was cool, but theater exactly wasn't what I wanted to do. I found that philosophy was more my speed, and that I learned that a lot of the ancient philosophers, a lot of very famous philosophers were good playwriters. So I was like, all right, I've always wanted to make a statement in my theater or in my plays. So I thought it'd be a good idea to, go into theater. But little did I know that, theater begins in the thought. So when it's a philosophy, which is pretty cool. I was an honor student at Winthrop University. I had a full load, and I worked two part-time jobs. Everything was cool, and for the moment I could handle it. I wasn't much of a person who hung out outside the room. I would go to class, come back, do my work. Anything else didn't matter. Um, but the flu got began to go around the school, and I caught it. And when everybody else was getting over the flu, I still had it. So I ended up missing like 2 weeks of class, and I ended up getting like she didn't fire me from my job. Like one of my jobs let me go. The other job he didn't let me go because I was able to work that shit while I was sick. It was easy as fuck. Other job she let me go, and she was like, I told her what was going on. I was like, look, I'm HIV positive, and she was like, look, your school is more important. She was like, when you have a less of a load, when you're in your later years, come back and see me. You know what I'm saying? But when I went to go talk to my teachers and tell them what was going on, a lot of them let me know they was straight up. They was like, you should have said something when you started your semester. It was like that's not something you go an entire semester without saying. And a lot of them gave me F's for failure to communicate. I mean, yeah, I could be mad about that, but they were right. I should have said something, but it's not easy, and it never will be easy going to anybody saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." I should have said something, but I didn't. I didn't. I continued going to school until I ran out of funding. Um, it was going to cost me almost $1,000 a month to continue going to school, and that was not including books. So I ended up leaving. I had a year and a half to go, and I would have had my bachelor's in philosophy and religion, and they were pushing me to go to law school. I had a year and a half left in school, and they were pushing me to go to law school. Um, After I would have received my bachelor's in philosophy and religion, which would have been actually cool with me, you know. I mean, me arguing, I'm pretty good at it. Um, but after I left, I ended up becoming nomadic, moving from city to city, place to place. I ended up actually ended up even saving a family's life while being in one city, um, which was crazy. And man, lost his shit, started beating on his kids, like slamming his kids into the pavement, literally babies into the concrete, into the back of cars. And if me and my husband wasn't there, he would have killed them. And that's word. So I guess it was a good thing that I kind of ended up leaving. I would like to go back. Since then, I've been working, um, paying off the balance and trying to save up money to go back. But it's expensive, so it's happening slowly. But in the meantime, I just try to stay stress free. I'm not looking for fame. Publishing 1 or 2 books each year. I'm just looking for a little bit of wealth to support my health. 32. I think I'm 32 years old.
I'm 29.
I was born in Newark, New Jersey, by way of North Carolina.
Um, I was born in Seattle, Washington.
My mother is black from a small town in North Carolina, and my father is Puerto Rican from a small town in Puerto Rico, in Ponce. So I'm a mixture of him and her, which they are mixtures of others because he's French and Spanish, and she's black and Native American. So I'm just me.
I would say my nationality is African American.
Growing up in New Jersey was terrible. We had fun. There was a time when we were able to walk to school, and kids were still getting snatched up, and kids were getting killed. But we had fun. But we had a lot of trouble. Cops shooting up neighborhoods, and ignorant fools shooting up neighborhoods, black on black crime and shit like that. There was plenty of times where we had to duck or run.
Well, for me, it was fun. Um, there is a lot of diversity in Seattle, and there's a lot of people of different racial backgrounds and different ways of life, and a lot of different places that are that I don't want to say catered, but they expose people to all the different cultures in the world in Seattle. So for me, growing up was it was interesting. I would say I had fun at school. The thing I enjoyed about school a lot was the field trips. We actually went places, and we got to explore downtown, and it kind of gave us an idea of how to navigate the city when we're adults.
I guess you could say I'm a man who has an affinity for the male, for masculinity, because it's really not the anatomy. It has everything to do with the air, masculinity.
My sexuality is gay, or single gender loving, if you want to be politically correct.
I've always known I was this way because I've always had an affinity for men ever since I was a little boy. So I've always experimented from a very young age.
I've known since I could remember. I've always had an attraction to other guys. And even when I was in my you girl stage, I guess I would like to joke. While your you girl stage kind of began and ended, mine is still going on.
Coming out the closet was difficult. I was raised in Holiness Pentecostal Church, hand clapping, foot stomping, everybody spoke in tongues and shit. It was what I did. I mean, I knew that's what I know. That's what I have known what was right for me, so I did it too. But as I got older, there was a lot of things about me that I was discovering, and I never really came out the closet. I was kind of thrown out because somebody thought I needed prayer and deliverance. So they went ahead and told somebody, and then this person told somebody else, and then got back to my family, and next thing you know, everybody knows I like boys.
Honestly, when I graduated high school, I kind of stopped caring. Well, no, let's be honest. When I got to my senior year, I stopped caring, and by the time I graduated high school, everybody knew what was up with me.
I lost a lot of people when they found out that I had been having sex with other men. My church family completely gave me an ultimatum. The ultimatum was to stop what I was doing, come back to the church, and be who they needed me to be. The other part was fuck off, and it became fuck off. I lost a lot of people when I came out.
Um, Only a few decided not to be my friends or just simply stopped talking to me. Um, in me being more truthful with myself and everything around me, I actually gained a group of friends I still talk to this day. Um, it's just interesting because others would look at them as the social outcasts, but we all found a sense of belonging with one another.
April 19th, 2005, I was diagnosed with HIV. It's been 11 years. Actually, yeah, it's been 11 years. It's been 11 years and almost 2 months since I was diagnosed with HIV.
I remember the date still, January 18th, 2010. No, 2009. It's 2016 now, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 8 years now. Yeah, 8 years.
The day that I was diagnosed, the first thing I did when I left was call my then best friend and tell her and him, well, my best friends, I called them on three-way and I told them that I was gonna run away, and they was like, no, you can't do that. It was just terrible. I mean, those are the first people I told. Then I told the guy that I was dating. I went to the school, picked him up, told him. We cried together. I had my clothes in the car packed, and this before I had left the house. After I packed my clothes, I wrote my mother a letter saying goodbye. I don't know where I was going, but I just could not sit around. But I told them, and some people reacted with the support. Other people just reacted in a way that was not really. It was just put me in a depression that I didn't want to be in at that time.
Funny story how that happened. So, while the sex police, I call them sex police, while she was just telling me that I'm positive and everything that I have to do and the things that go along with being positive, I'm texting all my friends that I'm positive. And yeah, I pretty much told everyone close to me. I didn't tell my family, strangely enough. I didn't tell my family until a few years later. My mother probably knew because when I got sick, I was at home. And they're used to me getting sick, but I didn't get sick to the point where on Christmas Day, I'm passing out. Or I've been in bed for weeks and I haven't eaten, and all I've been doing is sleeping. And I'm losing weight at a really fast rate. And I look like shit. So my mother knew something was up. And if it wasn't for her taking me to the health department, I wouldn't have the diagnosis.
Before I tested positive, I was an ignorant motherfucker. And I'm just gonna be real. I ain't know shit about shit, and I wasn't concerned about knowing shit about shit. The only thing I wanted to do was make money and be a good nigga. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to make no more waves. I just wanted to live. But then I tested positive and my life was changed. I had died and was born again. Things were different for me. I saw life in a new light. I could see the trees. I could hear the birds. I could smell the air. I guess it was because I knew I had seen death in a different way. But it changed my life for the better. I ended up going to college after I tested positive. Ended up be, um, getting on the dean's list every semester. Um, International Honor Society. It sucked that I had to become positive to make that change, but it made me more empathic, more caring for others, especially those who can't stand up for themselves. Because I was once that person who couldn't stand up for myself.
I would say put things more into perspective. It let me know that life isn't exactly short, nor is it also long. Life is kind of what you make it. And You can make it be a really happy place by choosing to be a happy, positive person, and just in some things you can't fix, deal with them. And at the same time, it also told me how important life is and how important taking care of myself is. Because if I don't take care of myself, I'll I could die. No, I will die if I don't take care of myself.
When I was 10, there was a young girl who lived next door to us, and when I say she was the prettiest girl you had ever seen, she was like a doll. She pretty curly hair, pretty bronze skin, pretty teeth. She was 9. Sitting in the backyard one day, she decided to reveal to me that she had AIDS. Not HIV, she had AIDS. And in that same year, well, within the next year, we lost her, and then my sister lost her best friend. So ever since I was 10, I've been losing people to HIV. Just this past year, I lost 3 friends, all young, 20s, in their 20s. One was in her 30s, and she had 4 children. It's never easy when that happens. Either you think you'll become numb to it, but you don't. Even if you try, you'll break and cry.
Yes, I do. I know a few actually. It's unfortunate that I didn't get to know them, as in sit down and chit chat, but we've talked online a few times, or I've just seen their status messages, and I didn't I didn't know the magnitude of the battle they were facing, that they were fighting. I'm definitely fighting the same battle. I just felt like they were at a different stage than I was. Well, I am. And theirs was a little bit more fatal because it was something as simple as they had pneumonia, or they just got sick and went to the hospital, and that's the last you hear of them. And then having to find out about their deaths through Facebook or just other social media, it's kind of gut wrenching because their page is still there, their pictures are still there, their status messages, everything that makes them them is still there, but they aren't.
Death itself doesn't scare me. Not knowing does. But death, no. I welcome it with open arms. Just wish I would know. Sometimes when I lose a friend, I become faced with my own mortality. Because they didn't know. Hell, one friend I had, he was working, he was a manager at the Bojangles, and he was doing his thing. He was going to the studio, recording his music, and boom, gone. And I still pass his Facebook, and I've been wanting to just send him a message and be like, I miss you, I love you, but I can't. But it sucks going through and seeing your pictures and everything else.
Even before my diagnosis, I've kind of come to terms with my mortality. Me being a black man, for one, we don't tend to live long. And when I lived to see the age of 23, that was big for me because forgot what song. No, the song to the Dangerous Mind soundtrack. One of the verses said, "I'm 23, but will I live to see 24? The way things are going, I don't know." It was interesting because before I became positive, I told myself, me being a black man, I can get killed by cops. I can be thrown in jail, which to me is the end of life, because if you're in prison for the rest of your life, you can't see the beautiful world outside you. And all you see is just four walls and a small hole. And you can go out and do stuff only when they allow you to. So that to me isn't living. But it kind of came twofold when I was diagnosed, because now I'm living with this microorganism that I didn't want. It kind of moved in, and left unchecked, it could just replicate like wildfire, and my body wouldn't know what to do with it. And any small infection, as even a common cold, could kill someone who's positive. So having to come to terms with that, it was a little hard, but if I were to die by any means, I'm not afraid of it.
Mental illness has always been looked at as something very negative, especially in the black community. So when somebody in the black community tends to act out, we tend to deem that person as crazy and just cast them to the side, as opposed to getting them the help that they need. When I was younger, my mother tried to give me the help that I needed, but at that point, I guess I wasn't ready. But as I got older, I had learned that because of some of the things that had happened to me when I was a child, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And that keeps me from having a grip on reality sometimes, because you never know where you are at times, especially depending on what triggers you. And being bipolar with depression, anything can almost trigger. So I try to stay pretty pretty calm and away from things that tend to trigger me, because once I'm triggered, it's kind of hard to snap out of it. Um, I guess you could say I'm mentally ill, but I know for sure that I'm getting help for it.
Sometime between last year and now, I was diagnosed with a few mental disorders. One was, well, is s- I keep messing up how to pronounce it. Schizoaffective disorder. Uh, it's it's kind of tough to research, because about 1 to 5% of people in the U.S. have it, and most people who do have it either kill themselves or they get committed, and you never really hear from them again, and it's not really explored. Another one is depression with psychotic features. My emotions can be all over the place. It's very easy for me to get depressed just by simply thinking about something bad, and uh, it just keeps going until I can either kick myself out of it or take meds. And a big one is autism spectrum disorder. I've had this condition my entire life. I've actually had all of these conditions my whole life. And once that diagnosis came in, it kind of made sense as to why I did poorly in school. It made sense as to why, oh, another one, ADHD. But it's the type where I'm not bouncing off the walls and all over the place. It's just I have an issue with focusing. But it explained as to why I had such difficulty in school. I still have difficulty with communications. Um, and that's still something I'm coming to terms with, because it's gonna be with me. Like, I mean, HIV is something that people are working towards a cure for, and that's a little bit different because it's a microorganism that can be eradicated. Autism is something that affects your brain and your hardwiring, for lack of better words. And with me having autism spectrum disorder, um, I have a hard time with learning new things quickly. I can learn new things, but if it's constantly changing, it throws me off so much. My brain just kind of does a thing where it's like, I give up, screw it. And it's really tough for me to work because every job I've had, I've been fired due to the fact that I can't seem to keep up with the demands of a changing workforce. I've even told employers I can only work this position and this position only. And then they go, okay, well, we're going to cross train you. And then they end up firing me 3 months later. So, yeah, every day is a new battle. Well, not battle. Every day is, it's not the same as yesterday. And even subtle changes irk me, and it's a lot. I mean, people constantly make fun of people who are autistic, or in my case, what they call highly functioning autistic. One example of autism is if you've seen the movie Mercury Rising, the boy in the movie, he's autistic, but he cracked this puzzle that was considered uncrackable. Autistic people are considered to be very smart. They're just different. That's really it.
So we're gonna take our medicine. It's not.
Yeah.
What else did I want?
Because that's your gap. Your gap in, for some reason, it was a different color.
Blue?
That's from the old bottle. That's from the new bottle.
Okay. This is my HIV med. There's 4 medicines, 4 drugs, and this 1 pill. It's not that new that they've been doing that.
It's been out since
The 1 a day thing has been going on for a few years now. But when we first started taking medicine,
you
had a cocktail of HIV meds, but they put the cocktail in 1 pill. He takes 1, I take 1. Then we take these little babies here. From being on a lot of medicine, and plus the mental illnesses, I've developed clinical insomnia.
Yep.
I don't sleep without them. I will stay up for days, and I've done it before.
It's great if you're trying to cram to finish a test.
It ain't even great. They don't have to you.
No.
It's not, because your mind needs to work. Your mind does not work when it's like that.
It's basically like someone just sitting in a control room with a dead look on their face, like.
And then when I was living in Seattle, from walking in the rain and not having the proper shoes, I developed nerve damage in my feet. So I had to take these 2 pills to keep my feet from going numb or burning or something like that. It's called a neuropathy. So, but yeah, taking medicine. Anthony takes his. He takes the trazodone too for the
Insomnia.
For the insomnia.
But I take a little pill called valcyclovir. It's commonly known as Valtrex, because I have herpes simplex. It's the unfortunate thing that comes with HIV sometimes.
Yeah, the extra diagnoses. Taking medicine has been hard. Like I took 1 regimen. Even now, because of taking so many different types of drugs, my digestive system is fucked. You hear me? I mean,
I don't even drink that much.
No, I've actually slowed down on drinking. I haven't had anything to drink in months, and even then, I'd have a bottle for weeks.
Yep.
Because I can't drink like that because my stomach is all fucked up. I'm talking about diarrhea. Nigga, what? You think that stopped? No. Pissing out your ass. I'm just being real.
No, the diarrhea never stops. Regardless of how many ways they can compact multiple meds in one, you're still gonna have the ones.
Yeah.
So
there was 1 year I had it really bad, and my life was changed by that diarrhea. I tell you that. And I mean, to talk to anybody who's taking HIV meds, like a lot of them are experiencing the same things that we are experiencing when it comes to these side effects. bruh, I still break out into sweats when I'm asleep. I have a lot of very crazy dreams at night. Um, I don't eat like I should. Um, we usually we usually smoke to combat a lot of these feelings, but marijuana is hard to come by where we are.
That
It's just hard to come by
yeah.
where we are. I recently left my last job because she didn't understand that she was working me too hard. And I enjoyed the money, but when I told her that I needed the rest, she still didn't take it into consideration. There were days where I would go to work, get off at 7 o'clock in the morning, have to go back in at 4. Being on trazodone, either I didn't take it and I didn't sleep, or I took it and couldn't wake up.
Yeah,
So
because
it was very stressful, and I ended up I gained 100 pounds. 100 pounds, my nigga. Yes, all from stress. So I had to leave. And some people may say, "Oh, that's stupid," but my health is more important than anything anybody got to say about their fucking opinion.
Oh, and we take our meds with juice because taking meds with water is disgusting. You ever tried? You ever tasted a trazodone pill?
It was nasty.
Nasty as hell.
Then they get stuck in your throat.
And then it feels like it burns. It's life.
And it's every day for the rest of my life. Every day. Ain't shit gonna change. Ain't shit gonna change.
And to all of you,
Go ahead, no.
And to all of you saying, "Oh, they're gonna work on a cure," think about this for a second. The pharmaceutical industry makes billions of dollars off of meds. Our meds alone is a college tuition in a month.
You better believe it.
That's about $30,000
Actually, it's
or more.
It's roughly $70,000 to give us the HIV medicine that we need.
So, if they do develop a cure, it won't be in our lifetime. If they do develop a cure, the money for it will be so high, not all of the population will be able to get it.
It's cool though.
So, in my opinion, they're not going to develop a cure anytime soon. And if they do have the cure, they're probably not going to disperse it anytime soon.
It ain't.
Because they're making way too much money off of sick and dying people.
And killing enough people that they don't want here.
Right.
We've been together since 2009, around September-ish.
Mm-hmm.
We met early 2009, around January, February. We met at...
I'm sorry, these lies.
We met at our HIV positive support group.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was something that I really needed because I had no support when it came to HIV.
Same here.
But when I met him, I had no thoughts of really who he was. I just thought he was some attractive guy who was dating somebody else at the meeting. So I paid him no mind. I had respect for his time.
And that wasn't the case. And the funny thing about it was, when he walked in, it was like no one else in the room was there. But funny thing is, my friend, he would lay on me, and that's what gave the impression that we were dating. So it's funny, if I could go back in time, it would have been like, get off of me.
I mean, it didn't matter because we ended up parlaying. I mean, it was crazy. He swore every night he liked me, but then they came to visit me, him and my two other friends, and he didn't say shit to me.
And that was because they kind of, well, no, for one, I'd been up for 24 hours. I had a really bad
He should have
case of
said something because
insomnia.
he could have just came to my room. I was
Yeah.
staying by myself and shit.
Plus, I was really, 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 really nervous.
It's cool though. But that was in 2009, and we've been together ever since, through thick and thin, ups and downs, and we've been through some shit. You hear me?
Yeah.
Two people with mental illnesses being together, especially somebody who deals with PTSD or somebody who's dealing with Asperger's and autism spectrum disorder. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody with Asperger's or autism spectrum disorder kind of flip out, but they become I can't really think of the words I would like to use, but there were times where Anthony wasn't himself because I mean that's somebody with I mean when you do I mean do something that they don't like. I had to get used to not making so many changes. I mean, I don't really like change much myself, but I had to get used to, keeping things stable and keeping things not so erratic. A lot of people didn't understand what me and Anthony were going through. At that time, we didn't know that he was autistic.
Right.
I knew that there was something different, and I even had friends come to me and tell me, "Yo, he's not up to your speed. I don't know why you with him." That didn't matter to me because I loved him, and I knew that I needed to stand by him because my love needed him and his love needed me, and that's what was important. So no matter how many times we swung on each other, which we did, we didn't know no better.
No, it didn't. Or like
We
there were times where people would be like, um, they'd be like, I don't understand Josh, and for me, I would just be like, well, you kind of have to sit and talk with him. You have to study him, and you have to realize that certain things trigger him, certain things set him off, and other things he'll just be real cool about. But generally, I mean, if you were to talk, if you were to walk with Josh on any given day, he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" He'll be your best friend. He'll sit down and have a conversation with you. There's just certain things that put him into a headspace that's like, okay, I don't want to go there.
but even then, I still be your friend after that.
Right.
I
He's
mean,
just someone who's very he has very distinct boundaries. Be for a reason.
yeah, not because I'm going to be a dick, but because I've been through enough where I know where to keep people.
Right.
That's only my thing. But with Anthony, there was times where Anthony would be feeling some type of way he didn't even know. Anthony, why you feeling that way? I don't know.
I don't know.
And then he started lashing out and kicking shit, and I'm like, bruh, what's wrong? Like when I met Anthony, Anthony was doing the kind of shit where he banged his head against the wall when he didn't feel right about himself, when he couldn't think things through properly. I had to stop him from doing that. Grab his head. What are you doing? Don't hurt your brain. Don't hurt yourself. Pick your head up. Hold your head high. I mean, even there was a few months where we had spent homeless in Seattle, for reasons I'd rather not talk about now.
Right.
But even then, a lot of people didn't understand Anthony's needs. Even now, some people still don't understand the level of his needs. I'm one of the only people who really understands. No, I don't know if many of y'all know what it's like to wake up or to jump out of your bed and go into the bathroom and find your husband on the floor. Do you know what that's like? Or to be in the shower and have to catch him because
he passed out.
because he passed out or had a seizure or something. Now I gotta carry him to the bed. There's plenty of times where he's passed out or had a seizure on the toilet, and I've gotta pick him up, put his clothes on, and take him to the bed.
Or times where I just have a seizure.
No one really knows the level of trouble we've gone through. We put on this, front that we're, smiley, giddy, giddy, yada, yada. I mean, which we are, but there's a lot that comes behind the love that we have for each other. It's not just two people together. We've realized that we've been coming back to each other time and time again. Our love is timeless. So regardless of what we've been through, what we've put each other through, and hell, you can ask some of our friends, they've seen that shit, but they've told us, you're stupid, but y'all sticking together. Some people still envy what we have, but you don't get what we've been through.
Yeah.
The times where we are walking the streets of Seattle hungry.
His feet so wet, the skin on his feet is separating in his shoes.
Not knowing where we're gonna sleep.
Wanting to beat a homeless man's ass because he's wearing boots that
Don't even fit him. He's not even wearing them.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's not even wearing the boots. And I'm sitting here going like, damn,
They were my size
Josh
too.
needs shoes and
All
they're in
because,
his size.
and then walking around trying to sell them like, nigga, you homeless. You trying to sell some raggedy ass boots, and I'm saying, so many times I want to whoop his ass. My mother told me I should have whooped his ass.
That's funny.
That's funny because my mother ain't gonna say that. She said I should have whooped his ass.
Yeah, she's not one to incite violence.
But she did this time. But I didn't. I kept to myself, and I was like, you know what? And there were many of times where me and Anthony went somewhere and we thought about just jumping together, taking pills and just sleeping together for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
There has been plenty of times. I mean, damn. I mean, put yourself in our shoes. Imagine this. You're sleeping outside. You found a school, and you found the quietest place on the school grounds, which is the deck of a school trailer.
Yeah, portable.
You pull out all your soft towels and whatever you have to lay on. You got a machete in one hand, he got a knife in the other hand.
And you're half sleeping, half not.
And the most sleep you got was probably like 3 hours tops. Sun coming up, you move before everybody comes.
We saw, I forgot one, I think it was one of us saw a security guard, and we were like, okay, we're leaving. Before he could even say anything, before he could even ask who we were packing up our stuff and leaving, and it felt so surreal because
we had never been there.
Yeah, we had never been homeless, and
I mean homeless, not a couch to lay on.
Right, we couldn't even couch hop.
No. It was in living in shelters in Seattle was terrible.
It can bring out the worst in you.
And so at times it did. I became a very ruthless motherfucker. Like, I mean, my mouth was already bad, but it forced me to really speak what I thought.
Yeah, he was cussing people out.
Left and fucking right. And I did.
But they deserved it though.
Care.
And it was moments where they just stepped to him wrong, and I'd be the one to be like, now Josh is someone you can't just walk up to and be like blah 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 blah, like you know him, especially in the situation we were in.
And I'll tell you real quick, you don't know me.
Right.
You don't know shit about me. Living in those shelters was terrible. Niggas smell. I mean, now, all homeless people don't stink.
No, they don't.
We smelled good.
Yeah, there are some people who are homeless and you wouldn't even notice.
In Seattle, they had places where you can go take a shower, you can wash your clothes, groom yourself, but people refuse to use it. Mm-hmm. And we stayed in disgusting shelters with disgusting. Even them niggas were nasty.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, no disrespect, but even they were nasty.
And the sad thing about it was they could have taken a shower at any
time. Yo, that one shelter, you could take a shower anytime. Well, you can only wash your clothes once a week, but even then, you can wash all your clothes and they were clean.
Right.
You had a staff that cared for you.
I mean, that was put them on top of your
that
bed
was like the
done.
best staff ever. But them other shelters, man, they talked to you like you were homeless,
and they didn't care.
Homeless people had a word that we called each other. It was called unpeople.
Yeah, unpersons.
We were unpersons.
Because it makes you feel like you're a ghost because you're walking down the street and people are treating you as if you don't even exist. Like they could just walk right through you.
Yeah.
And they look at you like you're not even there. And it's funny because people thought that we were two young guys trying to document us being homeless.
Bullshit.
Now there were actually people who were doing that. There was one guy who came from England, and he had one of his friends with him.
Yeah, and
he was
backpacking across America.
Yeah, he was backpacking across America.
Bitch, who backpack across America?
I guess someone not from America. But yeah, people were actually thinking we were taking a documentary of our homeless accounts of being homeless.
We had to convince people we were homeless.
Yeah, because people really thought we weren't. They're like, you guys are so proper, and I'm like,
that don't mean shit.
So someone who talks like they have an education means that they're not homeless. I mean, we met guys who were homeless for a variety of reasons. There was one guy who actually made it a career of being homeless because it took care of his debt when he was homeless.
Yes. Yes.
And then there was another guy. I think he was either in the Marines or he worked on a ship, and his leg got messed up. Like his calf muscle was almost ripped off. And that rendered him homeless. And he was living out of his Dodge Charger with his dog.
Yeah, we met a lot of very interesting people at that time. But through it all, everybody that we met, the thing that they admired about us is that we stuck together.
And they kept telling us to. Funny thing is, they thought we were brothers.
Some of them knew who we were.
Yeah.
And to them, it didn't matter because they didn't have something that we had. Somebody to go through it with that you can trust and that you knew was gonna be by your side.
There are times where guys will walk up to me and be like, I see how y'all take care of each other. Don't you guys ever separate? You guys are together in this, and you can't lose him for nothing.
And so a lot of my friends, when we came back from Seattle, a lot of my friends didn't understand what was going on. A lot of people thought, just Anthony was just a freeloader and this and this and that. And they didn't realize that I had been doing everything in my power to get Anthony to the right doctors, to get Anthony to the right specialists. And every time they say they would, they wouldn't. You gotta realize we don't have Medicaid.
Right.
So a lot of things that we needed were bypassed. And a lot of things that we still need are still bypassed.
Yeah.
Because we don't have Medicaid.
Right. Like the treatment I could use for all of my conditions, with the exception of HIV. I need Medicaid for that because a lot of them is like $2,000 or more. $2,000 just to get treatment for autism.
And he needs it.
Yeah. I, for one, want to know what this condition entails and everything about it. And honestly, Google can't give me all the information I need.
It's definitely not.
It's not. All I know is
you need more than information.
Right.
You need guidance.
And every time I've told people who are in the psychiatry field or psychology field about my difficulty with school and just my difficulties in life of handling simple tasks, which is funny, people made fun of me for that. They'd be like, it's simple, why don't you get it? And I'm like, and I'm trying my hardest to understand it, and then I'm getting pissed off because you're mad at me, I'm mad at myself, I'm frustrated, and I'm still not able to find a solution to this problem. One of the biggest things that bugs me is not being able to find a solution to a problem.
And that happens a lot. So I have to, I was guilty of pushing him too hard sometimes. So when I found out that a lot of his issues stemmed from his autism, I was brokenhearted because had I had known, I would have been pushing in so many other ways. Like we didn't even tell a lot of our friends. A lot of our friends still don't know.
I haven't gone public on Facebook about it because of fear.
This is the first time we're actually saying anything about it, about a lot of the stuff we're saying. But it needs to be said because I'm honestly tired of having to explain myself over and over again.
It gets old.
It gets old having to educate people again and again and again and again and again.
And having to tell someone just watch, that's difficult too, because the honest response a lot of people say when either of us say we have mental disabilities, can I call it that?
Yeah.
Okay. Mental or developmental disabilities, their first thing for Josh would be, but you're so smart. Or for me, they would go, but you don't look autistic. Just like I said, the boy from Mercury Rising is the societal view of autism.
Mm-hmm. The understanding that most people have.
And they think that people who are autistic aren't able to function. Now, there are some non-functioning autistics, but there's also mid-level and high-level functioning autistics as well. Just like most people think if you're bipolar, you go from craziness to sadness all in one breath. And no, that's not like that.
No.
It's not like that at all.
It's foggy and it's foggy. I'll just say that.
I've seen days where it's like emotionally he's been walking through a misty forest and he can't seem to find his way.
Can't get out.
Yeah.
Just crying.
And people be like, what you crying for? And instead of me asking the question, I'll just come up and I'd give him a hug and I'd console him. Because, there are some moments where I may not understand. But honestly, me asking a bunch of questions for someone who's still trying to figure out what's going on with him, that's that's like scratching a wound. You're agitating it. It's not helping. In those moments, you just need to be there.
Really. And that's what we're doing. We're sticking by each other, no matter what anybody thinks. Because he has my back,
And I got it. Yeah, he got mine.
I got your back.
Mm-hmm.
Silly guy. We
Mad
don't, we
scientist.
don't, we barely even have friends now because of what they thought they knew about us.
Yeah.
Instead of ever really asking, everybody always formed a fucking opinion.
Hell, even family, and that well, it's funny because I'm one who would be like I'm quick to cut a bitch off, but when it came to the harsh realization that my family one doesn't understand me, even though they've known me my entire well just about my entire life, and two because they don't understand me, they're making the choice of not being involved. That hurt. Like when we were homeless, none of my cousins were able to help me. Only one cousin was straight up with me, and she said, "Cousin, I can't help you because I don't even have a place of my own to stay at, and you already know how my dad is." So I appreciate her for her honesty, but that's how she's always been with me. She's always been honest with me. My other cousins, one tried to get me to sell drugs for him, and they go, "What? I'm not selling drugs for you just so I can have a place to stay. It's not that serious."
No.
And plus, on top of that, marijuana is legal in Seattle now.
Well, I'm
Chill.
asking, go get you a real job with marijuana.
Right. But and then there were others who just stood back and watched and said nothing, and they still are sitting back and watching and not saying anything.
So then this is the first time they're hearing about him. But it's not the last.
No. Because there's more people out there who are like us.
More people who are trying to fight and survive,
And who
like
just,
us.
just who feel like they're in the fog and don't know where,
The light is.
yeah. Or people trying to just find their own light. There's some people who have turned to darkness because their light's been stamped out. And they think that there's no turning back and they're beyond saving of themselves.
There is salvation.
There was always room for change.